Welcome to the second lesson in Session 6 on solving quadratic equations using the zero product property. A quadratic equation is any equation of the form a times x to the second power plus b times x plus c equal to 0, where a represents the coefficient of the quadratic term, b represents the coefficient of the linear term, and c represents the constant. We will learn 4 ways to solve a quadratic equation. The first method is to solve by taking the square root. Solving by taking the square root is a recommended method to use when the value of b is equal to 0. The second method is to solve by using the zero product property. Factoring the equation is what allows us to use the zero product property, and it is the recommended method if the equation is factorable. The third method of solving quadratic equations is to complete the square. Completing the square is a creative method that can be used for any quadratic equation, but is most convenient when a is equal to 1 and b is even. The final method of solving a quadratic equation is to use the quadratic formula. Like completing the square, the quadratic formula will work for any and all quadratic equations. It's the last method and recommended when the other 3 methods are unavailable or inconvenient. In this lesson, we will learn how to solve using the zero product property. The zero product property states that if a times b is equal to 0, then either a has to be equal to 0 or b has to be equal to 0. Factoring is what allows us to use the zero product property, and this method is only available to us when the equation is factorable. The first step when using this method is to set the equation equal to 0. The first example is p squared minus 11p plus 18 equals 0. Since the equation is already equal to 0, we're ready to factor. The equation is factorable, and expressing it in prime factored form gives us the quantity of p minus 9 times the quantity of p minus 2 equal to 0. The zero product property tells us that either p minus 9 is equal to 0 or p minus 2 is equal to 0. Individually solving these two one-step equations give us our solution set of 2 and 9. The second example is 2x squared plus 5x minus 12 equal to 0. This equation is a little more challenging to factor. Algebra learners who have a difficult time factoring might be recommended to use another method of solving. I usually tell my students to use the zero product property when the equation is easily factorable. When factored, the equation is expressed as the quantity of 2x minus 3 times the quantity of x plus 4 equal to 0. The zero product property then tells us that either 2x minus 3 is equal to 0 or x plus 4 is equal to 0. Solving these two equations give our solution set of negative 4 and 1.5. Our last example is given as n to the second power equals 4n. The first step is to set the equation equal to 0. This can be done by subtracting n from both sides. It is very common to see algebra learners divide both sides by n. Dividing by the variable will eliminate solutions from the solution set and is unacceptable as a method of solving an equation. Setting the equation equal to 0 allows us to factor using the greatest common factor. Factoring out n gives us n times the quantity of n minus 4 equals 0. The zero product property tells us that either n equals 0 or n minus 4 equals 0. The first equation is already solved and gives us an answer of n equal to 0. Solving the second equation completes our solution set and gives us 4. To earn credit for completing this lesson, you need to successfully complete the quiz. Good luck!